I'm here with Houston rap legend K-Rino. How you doing?
Blessed, man. Blessed and honored to be on your platform, my brother.
Man, I'm honored to have you. You've been in the game for a minute, man, since the early 80s.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit about how your career started?
Yeah, man. I was just a fan growing up in the early rap days when hip hop hit mainstream with Sugar Hill Gang, Curtis Blow, and Run DMC. And just like every other youngster in my neighborhood, just fell in love with Rapper's Delight and all that. And took me about 4 years before I started deciding to do it myself. So around 1983, picked the pen up and gave it a shot, man. And I've been doing it ever since. It's like being on a drug. I was addicted, man. I was gone. So
And you were in a group called Real Chill.
yeah.
How did you decide to start your own group? And
Yeah, that came along probably a couple of years later. I may have been 2 or 3 years in the game when we started Real Chill. Just some homies that I went to school with, from middle school all the way up into when we went to high school. Those are my homies, Jazzy J and GT. And we just formed a group, like, cause that was a thing back in the days. It was solo artists out, but everybody was Run DMC, it was Grandmaster Flash, Furious Five, it was the Sugar Hill Gang. So we just wanted to have a group. So in '86, we started working on a record that my dad funded and financed, and we put it out in '87. So I was one of the first uh, group members. I was in one of the first groups to come out of Houston to ever put out a rap record from the city. We were not the first, but we were among the first, maybe in that top five um, cluster of rappers to ever come out with a record.
yeah, and you're from South Park, which is like now, like everybody knows, that's the area in Houston, but was can you talk about the early hip hop scene in that era?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it wasn't a scene. It was just. I would say it is in its infancy. Literally, I like you talking about embryo stage, because there were only a handful of rappers in the mainstream, period, much less just in our city. So we were getting all our vibes and energy were trickling down from what we would barely hear on the radio. Radio wasn't playing rap music and all that. So we were not knowing at the time, we were part of the individuals who were building the rap scene in Houston, along with people like Wicked Cricket, OG Wicked Cricket, and Jazzy Red, Lester Pace, Willie D, Scarface, guys just back in those times, who Klondike Cat, Gangsta Nip were just rapping. So we didn't know what we were doing because we were just doing it for fun. We loved rap. I don't think anybody was thinking about doing it as a career or making money off of it. But eventually, we kind of, the light bulb came on. It was like, okay, maybe we can pursue this further, and that's what we were able to do, and still doing it.
When did you decide to start the South Park Coalition?
Yeah, the same year that the record dropped, the Real Chill record, Rocket, it dropped in '87. That's the same year that the South Park Coalition was formed, and all this going on while I was in high school. This isn't some brainchild that took place once I was a grown man. And this was 16, 17 years old. So, just a group of my homies that hung out with us, went to school with us. We always ran together in school, ran the hallways, battle rapping, talent shows, whatever. And just the close knit group of guys that I hung with, I'm like, man, we need to form us a group, a collective. And I named it the South Park Coalition, and it stuck. It is stuck, and we were able to add other members as time went on that made us stronger. I don't think that we would be as strong as we turned out to be and as strong as we are today had it not been for members like Gangsta Nip and Klondike Cat and AC Chill, Murder One, who came from another high school and then took us to another level. So I came up with the idea, but there was many people who contributed to making it what it is. Dope E and the Terrorists, Gangsta Nip signed with Rap Records. And I always make sure that I tell this story. Gangsta Nip signed with Rap a Lot Records in 91, 90 and 91. And when he signed with Rap a Lot, which we all know was a big time major worldwide label, um, he and Dope E put us on his record as features. And that's what gave the South Park Coalition worldwide recognition, because they heard Nip, they heard Dope, but they also heard myself, they heard Point Blank and other guys that eventually they would start to look for. So it was a blessing.
Yeah, I was like seeing in another interview where you were talking about Gangster Nip. You guys like actually were like arch enemies. Like you're kind of like you would battle, and like I guess it was like a huge battle, and it was like just a draw. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, that's what really merged us together, was that battle. Me and Nip are cut from the same kind of cloth when it comes to that competitive lyricism, that spitting, that battle rapper. We both at that time were like, nobody's better than us. We didn't feel that way. And we wasn't the only ones who were like that, like I say, because you can go to Klondike Cat, you can go to guys like Romeo Poet and Willie D on the North Side. And it was a bunch of rappers who had that mentality, but we were in the same neighborhood, in the same space. So our names were coming across each other's ears all the time, in terms of, this dude is really good, this dude is really good. And us having the competitive nature that we had, we was both like, he ain't better than me. He can't beat me, so it's like that. So it just came to a head. And I remember us getting on the phone one night, before the battle. Somebody hooked us up on the three-way, and we were just going there. We were just talking crazy, like what we gonna do to each other, like boxers. And because both of us just had in our heart, like, nah, he can't beat me. And then when we met up, it didn't take me but one round to know, like, hold on, this dude different. He different. And so we went about 6, 7, 8 rounds, and the crowd was urging it on. It was like, oh man, we don't know, man, we don't know. It's a tie. And after that, me and Nip just we were like that. After that, you couldn't see one without the other. After that,
Man, that's amazing. Like you end up dropping your first solo album in 1993.
yeah.
Stories from the Black Book. Like what, like was it about like that particular time that made you want to stay independent throughout these years, and like like release your records independently as opposed to like signing to a major label?
Yeah, well, in the beginning, I was trying to sign with a major label. I was sending my demos off like everybody else, but I was naive. In '92, when I first started hearing the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, it struck me so strong that I immediately knew that I was going to start incorporating those teachings into my raps. But I didn't know at the time that a lot of the things that I would be incorporating into my raps from the teachings were condemning the forces and the powers that be, which those powers included some of the people that I was trying to actually get to sign me to a record deal. So it was a conflict. But yeah, in the beginning, I was trying to get signed and all that, and a lot of labels were interested early on, but they would try to get me to change my content, or they would say, well, nah, you can't talk about this and that. So a war between myself and the labels would take place, but also between myself and my dad, who was still financing me at the time, because he was like, man, just do what you got to do to get in. I was like, nah, man, I ain't selling out. I ain't changing my. So we lost a few potential record deals behind that. But I'm one of those people who believe everything happened for a reason, and I don't think I'd be the artist that I am had I got a record deal early and kind of fell into that mainstream pocket and started conforming to
Right.
that, and as opposed to the approach that I took, more of a militant, I'm gonna do me approach, because I didn't know that I was actually carving out a space for myself to be a free, independent artist for decades. Nobody tells me what to write. Nobody tells me what song to leave off and all that. So I wouldn't trade it.
Yeah, like I mean, like I feel like I really appreciate your work. You know, songs like Grand Deception and like, you know, like the socially conscious message. And like you've talked a lot about like, you know, that on social media. I've seen like videos. One of them was like I was looking at right before the interview. We were talking about DJ Vlad and how he disrespected Farrakhan. I wanted to know like, you know, how you felt about that today. You know,
Oh, I feel the same way about it today than I did when it happened. I got a nickname for Vlad. I call him the vulturous lion ass devil, because he's built a whole career off of bringing black people down, or compromising the integrity of black people, or setting them up to incriminate themselves or compromise their own integrity, some unknowingly. And he's made millions of dollars doing that. So he falls into the same category, in my opinion, as a lot of the other snakes and vultures and bloodsuckers that have exploited black people and taken their resources and money and have built generational wealth off of the talent of black people. He lied on the minister, basically. He took a quote that the minister made, and he turned it into something else. The minister was speaking and was telling us, his followers, and anybody, to hurl a stone of truth at the head of liars. And he took that as the minister saying to throw a stone, to stone Jewish people, and the minister didn't say that. So he knew all along what the minister meant in the context that he presented it in, but he still put it out there. And that speaks to his thoughts of feeling how black people are stupid. He thinks that we would not be stupid, that we would not be intelligent enough to peep what he did. So once he was called out on it, he still didn't retract it or change it. He re-edited it, but he never said, I apologize, or my bad, or I was wrong, because of his arrogance wouldn't allow him to do that. And he feels that even in his snakish state, he feels he's above Minister Farrakhan, and he's not. So yeah, my feelings about Vlad have never changed. I think about all the brothers that have been incarcerated because they've gone on his show and he's led them into questions that may put them in positions to talk more than they should have talked, which accountability has to be held on their side as well. You got to know who you're dealing with. But no, my feelings won't change about him. He's the same guy. He's not to be trusted. I really am disappointed that a lot of black entertainers and artists still go on his platform, but you can't stop people from doing it until they see for
right?
themselves.
Because I can't think of anybody in the black community who like promotes black unity more than Farrakhan,
Yeah.
and to make like like false like remarks like like which like a lot of media outlets do try to label him as anti-Semitic, and then like when you really look at the quotes, you find out like and stuff that's not like what he actually said. Like,
Yeah. Well, the minister's he's America's most hated by the government, by the hidden hand, and all of the people who rule this world, and in particular the Jewish community. So he speaks that truth, and when he speaks that truth, again, that truth is a condemnation of a lot of their actions, and a lot of their actions that have been levied against us as black people historically all the way up into the present. So he's the one guy who does not cower or adjust himself when
right.
he decides to start speaking those kind of truths, and they understand who he is. So there's always been this campaign to try to discredit the words of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, because if they can change the narrative in terms of who he is, they can paint him in a negative light, on a false light. They know, unfortunately, that a lot of us are sheepish enough to kind of, whatever we see on the news or whatever we see on social media, if they say this about this particular person, it has to be true. And but people are waking up to do more research, to do more studying, and to do more vetting of their words, because when you start to get bit by that same dog, then you realize, oh, wait a minute, now if they're saying this about this man, and I know how these people are, I need to look carefully into it, because the minister is the last man standing.
Most definitely. Like, man, I enjoy your catalog. One song that, like, will forever remain in my playlist, man. I feel like, is one of the most vicious diss tracks, is aimed at Eminem. It's called Fuck Eminem. Can you talk about, like, like why you recorded that song and just like the
Yeah.
response?
Well, at the time, I had heard about some tapes that got leaked. I don't know who leaked them, but about some songs where he made a lot of racially disparaging comments about black women. And as I told you, I've been uh, down with the Nation of Islam since 1992. So one of the things that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches is that 75% of his teaching is for the woman. The woman is the second self of God, of the Creator Himself. All these positive things that relate to the black woman, and making us understand her place in God's eyes, and making us understand what her place should be in our eyes, because we've all been guilty of disrespecting our own women, and saying things and doing things out of pocket. So when I heard those tracks, the first thing people were saying, they were saying, well, he was young when. So my question always was, well, how young? Was he 4 years old? Was he 2? They said, well, no, he might have been 16, 15, 17. Okay, well, that disqualifies any excuses, because you're old enough to know what you're saying
Right.
at that age. So I took it as a way to defend black women, to say what I say, the thing that's to make the song in a defense of black women. And as I've said on other platforms, I took a lot of heat behind that. Even from black people, because they accused me of trying to do it for publicity, which wasn't nowhere in my heart to do. I don't rock like
No,
my.
I don't think, like, when I listen to it, I get that feeling, man. Like, you really come from a righteous place. And I think, like, it's like, like, how can I know, like, what I mean, of all, like, the diss songs, like, there's a lot of Eminem diss songs I think are pretty good, but, like, I feel like that's the best one because it's no response, man. And
Well, and it was a lot of just, I guess I would say it was a lot of anger in that song.
yeah,
If I was to make that song,
rightfully so. Like, I mean, it's righteous anger.
yeah. But you also have to be in control of your anger when you do certain things, because you don't want the message to be lost.
Right.
If I were to make a song like that today, it would be layered in a different kind of way, you
Okay.
know. But and it wouldn't be more vitriol laced from an emotional place. Like, 'cause at that time I was just like like to get him like that. But I didn't appreciate just the disrespect of black women. I didn't appreciate it, and I still don't. I stand on that to this very day. So
Why do you think, like, black people just, like, weren't more outraged by that? I feel like, it seems like it would be something that would, like, disqualify people from the culture. Like, we've, like, canceled other artists, like, for less, it seems. And it seems like, that, like, people were like, they didn't mind that.
Unfortunately, we as black people, we still suffer from a self-hate that still kind of permeates to this day, because you're absolutely right. Had that been somebody else, those tapes would have been discovered even from a brother that
Yeah.
made them a long time ago. It would have been a little different. But people would also argue and say, well, your black rappers been making songs calling women B's and H's for years and years and years. But I did have in my mind at the time, I was like waiting to see if any of the mainstream artists would have made a response to that, because I felt like that was gonna come, but and it wasn't an anticipation. It wasn't like, oh, I hope that. Nah, I wouldn't. It wasn't like that. It was more so just like, well, I know it's coming, but it never came. But the industry, the way the industry is set up, a lot of times, man, these artists will look at it like that's not something that's in my best self-interest to do from a business standpoint. And it might have been other cases where some of these rappers, they may have had a fear of him lyrically that they didn't want to put
Right.
themselves in that kind of position, you know. So those are the things that I looked at why they didn't do it. And also, man, I mean, when somebody is propped up to be, I guess the golden child in the industry, nobody wants to touch that because they may feel like they may lose favor down the line if you go at this guy. No, don't touch him. If I was to come into the NBA tomorrow and just clothesline LeBron when he's going up for a layup, I'm gonna be out the league, you know, real soon. So, you know, those are just my theories on that.
Man, do you feel, like, after 30 years plus in the music industry and you hear these GOAT conversations, and a lot of people, like, would swear, like, what I mean, K-Rino, like, he's one of the greatest lyricists of all time. Scarface, like, even like said in a recent interview, like, that you're his favorite rapper. Like, you feel like, not being on a major label, like a Universal, like, kind of like, kept you out of, like, more people putting you in that conversation with people like Eminem?
Yeah, because just the lack of exposure and reach. That's just a natural thing. If I've been independent and underground and basically regional for the most part, or just confined to certain pockets of areas where people, I'm more of a discovered artist. Rap fans, they kind of discover me. They come across me. Yeah. And I get emails all the time. So, well, man, and those are the words that, man, I discovered your music 5 years ago. I came across you,
right.
Friend that exposed me to you. So that's how I kind of come across now. So, of course, if I would have signed or if I was on one of the big labels back in the days and had that bigger platform to I guess you say level the playing field, then yeah, I think more people would know who I am. But that's the road that I chose. That's the path that I took, and I don't really get caught up in it, to be honest with you, because I have been blessed enough to, number one, receive that kind of love and those accolades from true to the bone rap listeners, rap fans who know they've heard everybody, you know. And if somebody's heard everybody and they have it in their heart to look at me and say, hey man, I put you up there. It ain't got to be number one. They put me up there, and I appreciate that. But also, I've had literally some of the greatest rappers ever that have told me, you know, that have mentioned me and things of that. So that's my validation,
right,
to look at it and say, well, you know, I don't ever question a second guess my abilities. And part of that is I might be just my own ego, but a lot of that comes from hearing my peers that are up there like that.
Right.
That everybody knows, and then say, well, no, all these guys ain't just co-signing for no reason.
Right.
So I appreciate it.
Man, that's incredible. Like in current news, like, J. Cole and Drake, the rap beef, like, J. Cole released a diss song in response to Kendrick Lamar. And he recently apologized for that diss track, coming from a background of battle rap. A lot of like fans are disappointed, like, in their response. How do you view that?
Yeah. I saw that. If we don't know the place that J. Cole is coming from when he makes that apology, then we can't judge why he did it. You know, he may be coming from a place of like, man, look, this thing could spiral out of control and escalate and get bad, like we've seen it get ugly with other artists, other younger artists, and Tupac, Biggie, whatever. We don't know. Right. You have people from different regions of the world, and a lot of times when beefs initiate between rappers that are from different regions, then the people who live in those regions, they're going to gravitate and cling on to the person that's repping their region. They're going to stand with that. So it could create a scenario where J. Cole may be in danger if he travels to the West Coast, you know. So, or it could just come from a place of just like, man, you know what? I wasn't really feeling that way. I don't want this to be the narrative. We are two of the tops of the game right now, and because those are the two guys that everybody's been mentioning, I guess for what, maybe the last 10 years, as those two um, mainstream guys, but they've still been able to navigate in a conscious way, and it's been accepted. It's like, so those are like the brackets: J. Cole, Kendrick Lamar, J. Cole, Kendrick Lamar. And to see them go at it was a surprise to me. But the flip side, I'll have to say this, because a lot of fans are saying, well, no, man, it's just hip hop. It's just, this is the essence. This is the nature of hip hop, that the battle rapping and all that. And I get that part too, because I came from that. I understand that. So if it's only rap, then go ahead, do what you do. But if it's any type of fear or thought that it might turn into something else, and that man humbled himself or had the humility in his heart to say, well, man, I apologize and I don't want to go there, then I'm not going to ever be a person who stands in opposition of peace. I'm not going to never do that. If it makes peace, even from a rap, just straight rap, hey man, I don't want to battle you, man. I'd rather be. I'm not gonna argue with anybody that wants to make peace. People are gonna say what they're gonna say. Oh, he was scared, or he was. Hey man, peace is always a good thing.
Most definitely, man. Like, do you feel like, the violence, like, in hip hop, like, sometimes like they get intertwined. Obviously, we've seen that in the past. Like, how can we, like, improve on a situation to, like, keep, like, beefs, like, just on record?
Yeah, no doubt about it. We're living in a different time, and we're living in a time where I can remember where the rappers who talked a lot of that talk, they weren't gonna do nothing. It's because you call them studio gangsters. They're gonna say everything they're gonna say, and only a handful will see you in person and actually address you and be ready for whatever. That represents a small percentage. These days it's kind of flipped around. These days, a lot of these artists or young artists, they're like in their mind, like, dude, I'm ready to stand on whatever it is I said. We live in a social media age where it's real. It's a big thing to tell people to pull up. It's a big thing to tell people where, drop your location and I'll pull up, and it's a big thing to deal with your op, as they say, only to prove to people who really don't care anything about either of y'all that I stand on what I said and I'm solid. So you do that, you stand on what you said you was gonna stand on, you solid, but you in the penitentiary for the rest of your life now. Or you don't get the jump and they kill you. So it's a situation where we just living in a different time, and it's fueled by uh, media and record labels who want to see this kind of controversy because it actually generates revenue.
Right.
That's always been the case. So these labels operate from an assembly line type of mentality where it's like, okay, he's out the way, but we can get another one of him. He's out the way, we can get another one of him. And it doesn't really matter, but your catalog and whatever music that you have, they have ownership on it. So they still make money off you in perpetuity because our business practices are not prioritized over our mindset to prove that we ain't no punk, so.
Definitely, man. Being in the music industry for the past 30 years, like, what would be your advice to, like, upcoming artists?
Yeah, well, the advice I always give people is to immerse yourself as deeply as you can into the understanding of the business itself. Your talent takes care of yourself. Your talent is God-given. You have that. We saw you get on stage and kill it. We heard your record, and your record was dope, and how you were spitting and rapping, and everybody loves your music. We got that part, but it doesn't take long for an artist to say, "Man, I ain't making no money. Man,
Right.
I don't have no legacy to leave for my family." It doesn't take long because the fame and the love and the clapping and the cheering and how great you are, that wears off when you start realizing the thing that you're not able to do financially. So I tell youngsters, man, learn the business, get a hold of understanding how to secure yourself with your gift, because we have talentless bloodsuckers who are securing their generations off of our gifts and talents. They don't have it. Their only talent, like I say many times, their only talent is to milk you for yours. You know, that's their only talent. So learn the game and make sure that you put yourself in a position where they can't steal from you and your family, man, because you're gonna have some children. You might get married or have a woman. You still have a mother, possibly, or the family that you want to take care of. And it's no worse feeling than looking at somebody else be able to do things for their children and their family, and they do the same thing that you do, and you can't do it. So,
Man, that's deep, man. K-Rino, man, I really appreciate you. I respect your legacy in hip hop, man. I saw you recently dropped a music video, Cutthroat. You know, what's next on the horizon for you?
man, you know, shout out to my homie Tragic out there in Canada for putting all that together, man, and bringing me out. We did a project together. We got another one that's done that we did last year that's going to come out probably towards the middle of this year or the end of this year. Just working, man, just working. I'm so busy now that I can't do nothing but thank God for it. I've been as busy as I've ever been. It's not enough hours in a day for your big brother these days, and I love it. So yeah, we got another video coming out behind Cutthroat to that same album, the 7-hour block album, and I got 2 podcasts that I'm doing now. Of course, the Underground Dialogue podcast, but I just started a sports podcast with my DJ Rec called Legends 34. So, you know, we getting ready to start really pushing that, and a bunch of other stuff I'm forgetting probably right now, but we got a lot going on, man.
Man, salute to you, K-Rino, man. I really appreciate you for taking the time.
Man, I appreciate you anytime, man. Hit me up anytime you need me, my brother.
Yeah, love to have you back, man.
Yes, sir. Let's get it on.